Hey, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're talking about 9.2 and the changes that are coming out. You probably saw the video this week from WoW about all the different changes coming in 9.2. Kind of, I should say, changes. New content for the new patch. Kind of. I'm not trying to downplay their effort, but there does seem to be not too much coming. There is a new raid. We are excited about that. There's other things that are coming in 9.15, like the Legion time walking. Cool. But I will say for the PvP players out there, they will be a little bit sad because it does seem like this might be kind of the tail end of the X-Pact, absolutely the tail end. And with that, we haven't even heard them say the words PvP in that announcement, but we did hear them say a few things, and there was some other stuff that came out. Like, for example, testing out solo queue in a new way of doing that, where 2 healers, 4 DPS go into an arena, and they get, what is it? I think they get 6 total matches, and you get points for how many wins. I don't exactly know how, I remember how Helinka had described it on Twitter, but that's something that looks promising. They're looking for kind of a funky way to do a solo queue type mechanism. We also have the tier sets, which are mentioned as being possible through PvP, kind of. They mentioned class sets, and I do worry that that means, well, maybe it means that it's just like for example, the Unchanged set or the Sinful set of gear. That's not what I want from a tier set. If we have a PvP tier set, pretty sweet. I'm kind of not thinking that'll happen, but I hope it does. Having a tier set bonus for PvP, I always liked. Now, let's go into the main thing, the double legendaries. Double legendaries, top of mind for everybody, especially because people did get to benefit from this back in the days of Legion, when things were the Wild West, when you got both of those legendaries, especially the best ones that you could get. A lot of legendary variation then. But now things are a little bit different in Shadowlands. In Shadowlands, we have specific class and spec legendaries. We have overall class legendaries, and then we have the Covenant legendaries. And it has been confirmed that you will be allowed 1 Covenant legendary and then 1 class or spec legendary. Now, you might think to yourself, geez, that sounds like it could get pretty wild. They really didn't, take off the handcuffs, really, of limitations, because if they allowed us to do any combination, I think you probably would have had more fun, more choice, player choice, imagine. But with the kind of locking you into Covenant plus class or spec, that really limits your opportunity for combinations, mainly because the Covenants, number one, are defining if you're in the meta or not, right? Like if you're, for example, a Resto Shaman and you're not Necrolord for survivability, are you going to be able to make it? You're going to really be able to make the cut. And if you're Necrolord with that legendary, is that Covenant legendary even good? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to run through the specs of Shaman. We're going to look at the combinations of remind us once again, what's that Covenant legendary? Then we're going to talk about potential combinations that could have with the other spec legendaries as well as the overall class legendaries. Don't forget about those. I kind of feel like specifically for Shaman, which is what we're going to talk about, some people forget about some of those, that everybody has said since the beta, hey, this legendary could be cool if it could be comboed with something else. Now, unfortunately, you won't get free reign of combinations, but let's go ahead and jump into it. What we'll do is we'll start with the number 1, Elemental Shaman. Now, let's go ahead. Think about Elemental Shaman. We know what the meta specs are, what the meta Covenant is for PvP. We'll talk about specifically. We'll also talk about PvE, Mythic Plus here as well. Let's talk about PvP first, because it doesn't get enough of the spotlight. We all know that. Number 1, Elemental Shaman. Everybody knows you go Necrolord. You can't really go Kyrian in PvP. Night Fae, maybe you could get something cheeky, but no, you can't. And Venthyr, just not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So what is that legendary? Now you get 2, right? 1 Covenant, one spec. What is the dealio? Well, it's Necrolord. Basically, this is based on your every primordial wave increases your haste by 5%. If I actually highlight this, it says 8% based on Lightning Bolt. But that's actually for enhance. So just to make sure that we're clear here. So just keep that in mind. So, okay, well, based on your lava bursts you get out, it's going to increase that haste, right? Is that good? I mean, to me, I don't think it's going to be that good. Now, the fact that you will just get the second legendary, like, okay, it's going to have some haste. Your haste is going to be increased. Means your flame shocks are going to tick faster. Your casts are going to be faster. Globals are going to be faster. it will help you a little bit. But the thing is, it's not like you really have choice. You're just going to get this legendary on top of the ones you're already going, your Skybreakers, or your Elemental Equilibrium, or your super defensive ones, or even Deep Tremor. So I don't think this is going to be that amazing, but it will be something. The other thing to remember is once you make a legendary, this is how I understand it will work. Could be different. Put it down in the comments if it is. If you make a legendary, you get that 262 right now. You get to control the stats on that. You also get a 262 piece of gear. So this means that you're going to be able to have a 262 Necrolord legendary, and then you're also going to be able to have an Elemental Shaman, like Ellie specific legendary 262. At least that's 2 pieces of gear that are pretty buffed up there. Now, if you think about how this might combo with other things, it doesn't really, right? The haste stat is just going to make you go faster. It means like if you keep on, you know, in PvP wise, if we look at the other legendaries, like I mentioned, it's going to make things go a little bit faster for casting and all that stuff, but it isn't going to change your gameplay that much. If we even look at the general shaman ones, which you do have to remember they do exist, again, it won't really do much. That haste buff won't. But that's it. Not kind of a shoulder shrug for Ellie on this one. A little sad to me. I feel like they did need a little bit of spark because I felt like they were in such a good place at the beginning of the expect, but now it's just been a harder and harder time with melee as dominant as they are in PvP. Now for PvE, what I'll say is this. Ellie, and by the way, just Mythic Plus, I love Night Fae, I love First Strike. It is such a fun mechanic to play around. Now, what I'll say is Night Fae, this will be nice because if you look at this Night Fae, you know, if you're Night Fae or even Kyrian, you do have some opportunity here. If you're Venthyr, I don't think that one's that good. Just a reminder, Venthyr is when you chain harvest, it'll apply a flame shock to the enemies and a riptide to your friends. I don't think that'll be game breaking in Mythic Plus or for Raid. It'll be like, it's okay, but not that great, especially because you can't echo it anymore. Bring back the Echo, Blizzard. Come on, do one for the boy. Now, Night Fae. Night Fae is Seeds of Rampant Growth. Each pulse of Fae Transfusion damage effect reduces the cooldown of Feral Spirits, Ripped Healing Tide Totem, or Fire Ellie by 6 seconds for Fire Ellie. This is for Ellie, remember. And increases the critical strike chance by 4%. Huge. This is going to be very nice for Ellie Shaman because of a few things. Number one, in Mythic Plus, Storm Elemental. This is going to turn into Storm Elemental, a further reduction of Storm Elemental. On top of your buffed up, maxed out conduits with the buff sockets, on top of running, you know, well, I guess you could run Skybreaker. You might be able to have Storm Ellie up perpetually, pull on pull, but Grey Sunring, we all know, has, you know, is pretty huge. But I think this will actually be a pretty good, this will be a nice gameplay changer. And that's what I really like is when things can change the gameplay a little bit. Oh, patch to patch. Oh, things are changing. It's not the same rotation. It's not the same abilities as fast. That's what I like to see. So this is actually cool for PvE Ellie for Mythic Plus. I'm actually pretty pumped about that. I think you're going to see a lot of more Night Fae Ellies if they're not already. I know we had Necrolords early on. Now, Kyrian for PvE, you know, let's just go through this. This is when three charges of Vesper Totem are consumed, Vesper Totem will radiate for big damage burst. Now, I honestly have heard mixed things about this. I heard, oh, it's so good. The passive crit buff as well as the actual legendary can do some big damage. I'm really doubtful, though, because it doesn't synergize with the playstyle quite as good as Night Fae. But again, this might be able to do some pumping along with your other legendaries. Now, again, this doesn't synergize quite like the Night Fae one does with Skybreakers. Skybreaker, along with this, could be really cool and a new playstyle you haven't seen in the X-Pack yet because you'll be able to just have Storm Ellie up consistently. So I think for PvE Mythic Plus, it'll be good. I think I honestly don't know for rating. I really am not, I don't see anything here that blows my mind. But I think for Mythic Plus, I think Ellie will be fun with this. And for Ellie for PvP, I don't really see anything changing like synergy-wise that would make me go bananas. So, you know, it's like a shoulder shrug for Ellie PvP, and Ellie PvE actually looks pretty fun with Night Fae. Now, let's go into Enhanced Shaman. Enhanced Shaman next has had a tough time this patch. I've been hearing some people are making it work with Turbo and PvP again. Will start, but I'll be honest with you, dude, why you popping, bro? Dude, they're in some trouble. Number one, they have to go Venthyr for PvP. You just have to chain harvest. You just can't not have it. a huge cooldown and huge burst. Now, that means you're going to be getting this legendary. Each friendly target, again, healed by Chain Harvest, or healed by Chain Harvest, immediately get a Riptide. Okay, not really that big of a deal for PvP. Each time an enemy target gets a Flame Shock, also not that big of a deal. But you might think, hey, Flame Shock spread, we've been asking for this for a long time. I'm going to be honest with you. The only thing that really benefits from that is potentially, Fire Nova, which no one's going to use. It's not that good. Unless in Mythic Plus, we'll get to that later. Or Lava Actuators. It could help the spread of Flame Shock because it is so annoying right now if you want to spread your Flame Shocks to rack up those stacks on your Lava Actuator legendary. And if you do, and this is where we start to see a synergy. Now let's go ahead and go down. Primal, this is what I'm talking about. If you're Venther, which you have to be for PvP, you're going to spread Flame Shock, and then Primal Lava Actuator says, each time Flame Shock deals periodic damage, increase the damage of your next Lava Lash by 12%, reducing the cooldown by Lava Lash as well. So getting that spread Flame Shock out, number one, they won't think to dispel it right away anyway. And it's going to make it so you can stack this up way faster. This was definitely a reason why people weren't taking this. But even my best buddy Jibby out there, incredible enhanced player and streamer, we were even talking about this. He said, dude, you can hit for 35K, but it takes forever to ramp up. Well, not anymore. So I'm actually pretty excited about the potential for this legendary to work with Lava Actuators and Hot Hand. Hot Hand making Lava Lash do, 300% more damage. That stacked with the legendary, stacked with Venther being able to spread, that could have some good use. I don't think it's going to be game-changing. It just opens up another potential window. Now, yes, if you do go Lava Actuator, you're not going Doom Winds. We all know how we feel about that. But I don't know about you, but I'm sick of being disarmed by everyone and their mother and their grandmother. Now, otherwise, for PvE, for Enhanced Shaman, I'll be honest with you, Kyrian, again, I think that could be decent. Doesn't really change the gameplay. But I do believe that the Night Fae one is going to be a game changer, or at least helping Enhance out for two reasons. Number one, having Feral Spirits up and, reducing Feral Spirits by 9 seconds per tick. There are 7 ticks, if I recall, in Lava. Let's see, does it say? Maybe it doesn't say. But basically, 7 ticks, right? Each pulse, I think there's 7. Yeah, because it hits 4 targets. So that's potentially a minute off of Feral Spirits. I think I might be off a little bit in my math, but that means your Feral Spirits are going to be up really fast in raid if you take the good old, and people are, Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones. Increases the chance of getting a Maelstrom weapon by 3, and whenever you gain a stack of Maelstrom weapon, the cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds. These two are going to work together, and in raid, it's going to make things smoother. It's going to make things better, especially by using the Night Fae legendary. Now, in terms of PvP, you don't really get that opportunity unless, even then, actually, now that I think about it, it could be okay because, again, the cooldown of Feral Spirits goes down, and maybe you could use it, but I don't really see this being that good for PvP. I actually tried Enhance Night Fae for so long, and I just couldn't make it feel good. Just felt like poo-poo cheeks without the good old Venther to save the day. Now, in PvE, otherwise, I don't really see anything else being game-changing. Again, Kyrian for Mythic Plus, but I think Night Fae, again, would still be very, very super-duper strong, especially with First Strike, and especially with the fluidity of getting Feral Spirits not down on the cooldown. So I would say overall, it's going to be good for Enhance. It's going to be, overall with the Venther, potentially some other build. And Mythic Plus is going to be good. Not amazing. Now, I'm not saying things are going to be amazing. I think some classes are going to get an incredible buff by getting those combos. Warriors, for example, going to get an incredible combination. They're just in PvP particularly. It's going to be kind of rough for your boys, especially because they counter Enhance pretty hard. But we'll see. The other thing I'll say about Enhance that people have been trying to say is dude, Tiqqle, how do we get Enhance to get in the Necrolord tree? Because it's so defensive, that could help us out. Is there a different build we can do? And I gotta be honest with you, I still do not see a path for an Enhance to play Necrolord in PvP. I just don't see it. Unless this did something beyond haste that buffed our damage. Now, an Enhanced Shaman at PvP, it feels like you're basically doing damage like you're trying to kill them with paper cuts. And the more paper cuts, the more fast you can do them. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. So I would say in general, we're sticking to Venther PvP, but for PvE, Maybe it could be good. This could be good in a raid situation, single target, but I got to be honest with you, Night Fae with Witch Doctors plus Feral Spirit Reduction, very, very strong. Now, the only thing I'll say is if we look over here, can't forget, we do have this boy, the Deeply Rooted Elements. Now, we've talked about Ellie casting Lava Burst, gets Ascendance. We like Ascendance. We also have Storm Strike getting Ascendance. Like, these things aren't affected by these Covenant Legendaries. But let's go to the last one, which I actually think there's some interesting stuff that could be at play here. It will be the good old Resto Shaman. Very strong PvP right now. You do love to hear it. Now, if we think about what every Resto Shaman basically in PvP is a Necrolord. And if we think about this legendary giving us haste, we are not excited. We are not excited. Mainly because, to be honest with you, it's just haste doo-doo cheeks for Resto. I mean, it does make the GDC global cooldown shorter, which honestly is probably the best part of haste for us. But it's just overall just not that good. It doesn't work into anything else. Haste and this legendary just doesn't synergize with anything, which is one of the reasons I don't like this legendary. For Necrolord, just giving me haste is just not fun. It's just not exciting. I'm not really a big fan of this one. Now, if we think about Resto Shaman as a Venthyr, which you do see them in PvE, where you'll remember again, the Venthyr legendary, casting Chain Harvest, applies Riptide and applies Flame Shock, la-di-da. But Riptide's really the interesting one, which is really about the following. If you use that along with Deeply Rooted Elements, if you're hitting 5 people with Riptide, because that's the max number that will hit with Chain Harvest, 5 people with Riptide, you're going to have a 5 times 7, which is a 35% chance to proc an Ascendance. Only for 6 seconds, though. But is that worth it? Maybe it is. And you're also going to be Riptiding at other times. So I know that a lot of people, and most people were using, where is it? For Resto, they were using Pridal Tide Core. Every 4 Riptides would also apply Riptide to another friendly target nearby your Riptided target, which was good. You'd get bonus Riptides. But this could be a little bit better. Maybe. I'm being hopeful because of the synergy between these abilities. But because of the cooldown of Chain Harvest of being 1.5 minutes, it is a tough sell. But it is something that is possible, and maybe it would be, Chain Harvest in itself will still heal for a big burst. So you're going to get the big burst plus an Ascendance. Maybe it's overkill. But I do see that as something that would be interesting, to be honest. Now, otherwise, Night Fae, again, pulses would reduce the cooldown of your Healing Tide Totem by 5 seconds. I do think in PvP specifically, Resto Shaman could like this very much. If they can get away from Necrolord and that Fleshcraft and that passive healing, if they can get into Night Fae and they can make it work, that would be pretty big for 2 reasons. One, Fate Transfusion pumps damage, but also Healing Tide Totem in PvP, if you take the PvP talent, does a ton of freaking healing. So if you can make it work, if you can make it happen, and maybe the mobility is the key here to surviving those melee trains, this could be quite a beneficial option for us. And then this legendary is active, and then you can also go another one. And when I say another legendary, you know what people are already running now for Resto, which is Earthen Harmony or Deep Tremor. So those are possibilities in PvP. I think Resto Shaman has a few options. Like I just mentioned, these are now the 3 options that they have, and synergizing, what legendary they're going to use just for healing in PvP, and then also what these Covenant ones. You have some options. As well as PvP for Kyrian. I've heard that the Raging Vesper Vortex does a lot of damage, even in PvP. Now, the totem has like 10 health, but if you get it off, I did hear it can pump some damage, but I haven't checked it out. If I was a PvP player focused on what should I do next, I would probably say it's between Necrolord and Night Fae for me. If I was a Mythic Plus player, what I was saying about the synergy of Venthyr, I could see Venthyr being top dog here, spreading out those Riptides on everybody, as well as potentially Deeply Rooted, potentially helping out. And you might ask yourself, well, how does the Venthyr applying Riptide, maybe it works really well with Primal Tide Core every 4 casts. That means if you cast 5, you're going to get a Primal Tide Core proc. In raid environment, I think that'd be huge, especially because you're not like overburst healing through a Chain Harvest plus an Ascendance proc of the other one. But it does bring into my mind a few different options that are definitely viable. So I know this is a little bit longer video than I wanted to, but I do think that Shaman has a little bit to look forward to for this double legendary. As you might have noticed, I'm excited for some opportunity for changes. I don't think there's anything that's a game changer like, oh, these 2 together gonna make shit crazy, other than Ellie and that Storm Ellie. That might be pretty huge for Mythic Plus. Otherwise, enhance, like, it will be nice with permanent feral spirits basically, and Ellie will have permanent fire ally. So I see Night Fae being huge. I see PvP wise, I don't really see game changers, but I do think if we can make the Night Fae work, maybe a build with feral spirits for enhance, maybe survivability and mobility with it, Resto to squeeze out this, because if you get 30 seconds off healing tide totem, now you have a 30-second cooldown there. It's pretty huge. And again, fire Ellie, overall damage pressure in PvP. So I think Night Fae, you're going to see more people going that no matter what spec you are. But guys, that's it. I just want to go over this. I am excited for the changes coming. I'm excited for the next X pack whenever it comes out. When the tier set stuff gets more released, we're going to do another video on that. We're also going to be talking about more shaman stuff coming up. There has not been many changes recently, which is rather sad, and it has been a rough road for us, but we'll keep it going. And thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. Even if things are a little bit quiet around here, I know you guys are out there supporting, so thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one, or see you on the daily streams. Check the link down below, and on the way down there, press that sub button, that like, and we'll see you guys next one. Take care, everybody.